Valve stopped making Meet the Team videos in 2012, and it's currently 2018 now. And yet, looking back on it again, I noticed things that I originally didn't the first 1,500 times I viewed them. In fact, going back and really looking into these videos again, there was a whole lot that slipped under the radar. So in this video, from minor details, Easter eggs, and errors, here are some things you might have missed in the TF2 Meet the Team videos. Going in order from the class selection screen, the first person we come to is Scout. Though his video is rather simple, there are a couple of tiny details that you probably didn't notice unless you went through and paused at every frame like I did. First, when the Scout and the Heavy start fist fighting, you can actually see that the Heavy sandwich is laying on the ground perfectly pristine, as if the Heavy just put it down gently to fight the Scout. While extremely minor, it kinda does show just how attached the Heavy is to his sandwich. In addition to that, you might have missed the fact that the Heavy actually has with him a lunch bag. Yeah, again, it's just something really small you probably never noticed, but it's nice to know, I guess. Now onto something else. When the Scout does his monologue, and you can actually see when he touches the camera with his finger, he actually places a fingerprint on the camera that persists throughout the rest of the video. This is just one of those really cool extra details from Valve that it's really subtle, so it probably slipped past a lot of you, but once you know about it now, it's pretty cool to know. But finally, we got just one more minor little detail, and that's that the control point at the end of the video actually flips to red, showing that the Scout did in fact cap the point. That pretty much wraps it up for the Scout. It was a short one, he's a rather simple video, but there are still some things that might have slipped past a lot of you. Meet the Soldier is also going to be a pretty short one, as the video doesn't really hide all that much. One error that is persistently noticeable throughout the video, though, is that sometimes when the soldier shoots a rocket, they will make a crit sound effect, but not a crit visual effect. And it's not like every rocket is a crit, as some of the beginning rockets just use the standard rocket firing sound. This is probably just an oversight from Valve, and it doesn't actually take away from the video, but it is worth pointing out. But something that Valve definitely did intend, though, is that when the soldier takes the control point and smashes the spy with a shovel, forcing the cigarette to fly out of his mouth, you can see in the background that there's a no smoking sign, clearly visible. Just a bit of cheeky humor there from Valve. Meet the Pyro. Meet the Pyro is the last Meet the Team video to come out, and as such, you might expect it to be full of minor details and the like. But it's actually a lot simpler than you might expect. Still, there are a couple things. First, when the title card first shows up, you can see a balloonicorn on the matchbox, foreshadowing the reveal of Pyro Land, as this takes place before it actually happens. Though when the camera actually zooms in on Pyro's mask, there's another little Easter egg there too, as you can actually hear children's laughter as you get closer to the light. Listen. Did you hear that? Well, listen again. See? Just one final breadcrumb that doesn't really matter, because the reveal happens less than a second away later, so you wouldn't even have time to process the whole thing that fast. But hey, it's neat to know there's a bit of children's laughter getting up there. When we get to Pyroland, though, and Baby Heavy first shows up, you can see that the blue Heavy logo is on one of the houses, signifying it probably is that Baby Heavy's house. There's also a red soldier in front of it as well, but I didn't really get the meaning of that in all honesty. But finally, to look at one last shot, we're after the Pyro's bloodbath. We can take a look at the body count and see a Heavy with an axe in his head that we saw earlier, a charred Scout and NG, and a dismembered hand with an extinguisher behind it, leaving us one last image of the Pyro's true horror. Next up is the Demoman, and right at the start there's already an error, as the explosions going on behind him don't actually have any stickies or anything that would actually cause an explosion. Again, this is likely just an oversight on Valve's part, so we'll just move on. When we see the Demoman actually move the bottle of Scrumpy in a later scene, he reveals a barrel of cordite behind it. Cordite was a propellant used as a gunpowder replacement by the British Army in the early 20th century, but would have been outdated by the time TF2 takes place in the late 1960s. So I'm not sure what it is. Is the Demoman using outdated explosive equipment? I don't know. Maybe. But the next time we see Demoman here, though, you can actually see him knock a grenade off the table and actually have it turn live as it hits the floor, but it's so subtle you probably never noticed it. Of course, there's another error to be seen. When the Demoman actually shoots 2 grenades at the sentry, we only see and hear him fire 1, but in the next shot there's 2 grenades rolling towards the sentry with no explanation as to how the second one got there. Come on, Valve. 2 mistakes in one video? Sorry, 3 mistakes, because this is an attack-defend map, and yet we see the red team coming from blue spawn, and the blue team defending red's control points. While this is likely more of an intentional mistake, it still doesn't quite line up for the game, and for that, Valve should be ashamed. I'm just kidding though, this really doesn't matter at all. Following this, we have Meet the Heavy, the very first Meet the Team video to ever be released. And it's a bit of probably one of the simpler ones. In fact, it's the simplest one of them all, but there are still a couple things to point out here. Immediately, we can see that the box the Heavy places his minigun on top of is actually a big box of super caliber custom-tooled cartridges. So the Heavy is placing his gun on his ammo box, and it's a pretty big ammo box. We know this is his ammo box because the Heavy mentions himself that he uses
$200 custom tool cartridges.
This is a simpler video, as I said, so nothing really happens from here until we get to the battle scene, where there are a couple of things I'd like to point out. First, the Pyro immediately blows up. Like, immediately. Look, immediately. And then we can also see a sniper falling off the roof over there beside the Heavy near the blue spawn. And then there's another sniper that just kind of sits over near the rocks and doesn't aim down sights at all. So it's basically your typical Dust Bowl game. First thing that seems so obvious in Meet the Engineer, but yet you probably didn't even look at it at all, is that the truck the engineer is sitting in front of is a blue truck. It belongs to the blue team, and in a later shot, we can actually see it's carrying a crap ton of blue intelligence briefcases, which kind of explains why the red team are trying so hard to kill this one engineer, but doesn't really explain why the engineer is just camped out in the middle of nowhere. Unless, of course, it's to level up his strange counter, because another cool detail is that this thing actually ticks up every time the engineer kills someone in the video.
The answer.
That one you might have actually noticed though, but did you also notice the skull and crossbones sign over here? I mean, I can't hear you, but I think I'll just assume you're saying, wow, no, I didn't. Thank you for pointing that out. That's it though, that's all I have for engineer. Meet the medic. Whew. This video is an absolute gold mine of minor details. So let's dig into them, shall we? When we first cut to the medic in surgery, we can see X-rays of the Heavy with a bomb inside of him, and then that same looking bomb in a bucket with a bunch of organs. This begs the question, did the Heavy originally come here because he had a bomb in him, or was that something the medic just happened to find? I mean, this is TF2, so it could be either or. Next, when we see Archimedes getting blasted by Heavy's exploding heart, we can see a mysterious figure up in the window. This is speculated to be Miss Pauling, and of all the things in the video, this is probably one you already knew, but I just gotta point it out just in case there's somebody who doesn't. Another really cool little detail is that when the Heavy's heart actually explodes, you can see that the heartbeat monitor has flatlined, and then it resumes beating once the medic puts the Uber thing in it. Looking in the fridge, we can see that the 2 named hearts belong to the Loch Ness Hamster and the Mega Baboon. Some interesting names for creatures. But looking over at the spy head now, did you ever notice that he has his own ashtray in the fridge? I mean, I guess the medic is accommodating, but once the medic actually goes to heal the heavy's ribs actually don't grow back, because...
Ribs grow back? No, they don't.
But after all of that, I hate to ruin it with an error, but I do have a mistake for you. When the Demoman in the wheelchair gets blasted by the rocket, he has a grenade launcher. But when he falls to the ground in the next shot, it changes to a sticky bomb launcher. Video ruined, -10 out of 10, fuck you, Valve. I'm just kidding again. Immediately into Meet the Sniper, you can see a road sign off to the right that has a headshot icon on it. You know, because it's the sniper. It's a cool detail, okay? Another cool detail is that the base of the bobble stand that the civilian model is on actually has the Team Fortress logo on it. It's kind of subtle, but it's there. Moving on now, looking at the scene with the coffee and the piling Girardi jars, did you ever notice that the clock moves to show the passage of time? Now, at first it kind of jerks back, so I can't really get an accurate point of when it starts, but after it normalizes, it progresses forward a little over 3 hours, probably implying that the sniper spent about 3 hours just for a single kill. A true canonical camper. But finally, ending off this video, when the sniper says,
"Have a plan to kill everyone you meet,"
he actually shoots the camera, and the video is called Meet the Sniper. I'm really hoping I don't have to explain this one. And finally we reach the last video, and oh boy, it's a good one. First off, this wall right here is an Easter egg treasure trove. And let's look at all the cool ones, shall we? We have leaked video, needs roommate, smells, is a robot, hungry, has evil twin, hit by train, stole car, needs a ride, found Dracula, behind you, is a man, is a woman, which is ironically under red Pyro, on toilet, smothered, opened briefcase, depressed, about to explode, defenestrated, which means thrown out of a window, owns base, above you, Girardi, and finally, lost Dracula. Next, the number 1 on the keypad is more faded than the rest of the keys, meaning that it's probably the only number on that keypad anybody bothers to press, or the soldier's the only one to actually use the door. It could be either. Scout is also the first one to touch the door, the briefcase, and the knife, foreshadowing the reveal that he was the spy all along. And when the title card finally plays, we can see that the top secret Scout's mom folder right there at the start, the contents, well...
That would be your mother. Indeed.
Up next, when the spy shoots the engineer, and the door swings open, there's a big sign on it that says, "Keep this door closed at all times." Valve back with their cheeky humor they are. And finally, the final fact of the video is one that requires we look into the game itself. And I'm sure you already know it, but will you smartasses just bear with me, alright? When the spy cuts the sniper's cheek, that mark was actually added into the in-game sniper model after the subsequent spy update that dropped with this video, and has remained ever since. So that's everything I got for you. I'm sure I inevitably missed something, and I'm also sure some of you will courteously point it out in the comment section. And by courteously, I mean you'll call me a moron for missing some obvious detail, and that means I suck and this video sucks. But anyways, this video actually took a long time to make, longer than anything else I've ever done. So if you would be so generous as to like the video and maybe, dare I say, consider subscribing, I would be greatly appreciative. But yeah, that's it. Video's over. We're done here.